get out. So as soon as they realized that we were starting to take them out, it was like you can't even walk out the door without them lighting up.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're like, oh, we're going somewhere.
So for you guys, like when you're coming off a break, because I mean, it's going to happen. Like every houndsman at some point during this whole journey we're on, like there are things that come up that you have to take a break sometimes. So when you're trying to build those dogs back up and getting them ready for action, I mean, what do you feel like is the most important part to start with?
Just starting them slowly is like the biggest thing, because like I said, if we just take them out and try and run them, get them nice and conditioned, they'll just start blowing pads and breaking nails and stuff. So I think starting off slowly is probably the best thing after a long break, going for hikes with them and then slowly doing, runs and stuff, and seeing how they are with other game. If you got to trash break them again or whatnot. Ours were pretty much ready for bear hunting. So hopefully they can catch something today. Today's the beginning of bear season. But we did a couple of scent drakes too, just to kind of get them back in action and, show them what they're looking for. And they just blew those out the water. It was like Isaac was like trying to make it really hard for them. Go on rocks and stuff, and he's like, I should have made it harder.
Well, you had a pretty important scent drag though, like here recently. I want you to share this story with one, because you didn't even know that you were like W podcast famous after I think it was last week or week before.
Yeah. When Isaac called, he said that you guys had told him that we were talked about on the podcast, with our gender reveal. We did that scent drag, and it was my idea. I wanted to do something with the hounds, so my original idea was maybe like a long white sheet or something like that, and laying it out, and then like dump in the box and have the dog's pads painted either pink or blue, and then just having them like run and put all kinds of tracks on it. And then I thought about it, and I was like, no, I think if we do a scent drag and just put two different trees with the pink balloons and the blue balloons, and then, have someone lead the scent to the tree that the gender would be.
Right.
And see what they do. And we did a practice run. We were doing a couple scent drags to kind of get the dogs ready and stuff. And we did a practice run, and they just piled on that first drop of scent, and they treed right away. They did just perfect. But for the actual gender reveal, of course, I wanted to practice, because you've seen all those gender reveal fails, like where they're going to pop a balloon and they accidentally let it go, or you know what I mean, and it takes off floating away. So I wanted to do a test run, because the dogs hadn't been to a tree since the winter, and they did that perfect. But when we went to do the actual gender reveal, we had a pizza party, and the scent was just so hot that they blew past the trees and in the direction of the truck where the tailgate was set up with the pizza. And Isaac thought that the dogs were just going to go get the pizza. I mean, I think we had like 15 dogs there.
Right.
He's the only one that could control them with the GPS, right? Or, I mean, me, but I'm pregnant, so I can't really help much. So, he kind of starts running over there, and by the time he gets halfway there, the dogs realized that they had blown past the scent. They weren't interested in the pizza. The scent was just so hot that they blew past it, and then when they realized they passed it, they turned around and came and treed. So it was pretty funny. I was like, what's going on? What are these dogs doing? But they got it figured out.
Yeah, so, that happens like all the time, right?
On the tree.
That's the best part. That's what we were joking. I'm like, I want to follow up after the baby's born. Just to make sure everybody was right.
Yeah, our friend that set up the tree, if they would have treed on the wrong one, she would have probably
ruined it.
Been cheering them on, because once she seen that they were on the right tree, she was like, "Good dogs!" And she started, cheering them on to get them to tree harder. But
that was
pretty fun. It was always fun to include the dogs.
Yeah, it's really cool. But, you know, something that I'm going to say simple, right? Like we think of that as you're just laying a scent drag and they're going to go to the tree and tree. Like, does that not just totally wrap up hound hunting? Like people that haven't been in a situation where scent's too hot. I mean, like that's exactly what happens. You lay down a ton of scent, those dogs are going to drift it. And next thing you know, you think you're losing your lunch and hoping that they were right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
there was just so much there, so but it was fun, and the dogs enjoyed it. And then Isaac went up and he popped a few balloons, so I don't know if that, you know, got them a little bit more amped up, but
yeah, sounds like a gunshot.
They really enjoyed it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I probably better introduce you before we get going too far, because I've got Teresa Lujon is how you pronounce the last name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got that right.
You want to tell everybody where you're from, and you guys have just recently stepped into the outfitting game too.
Yes, sir. So we're from northern New Mexico. We're both born and raised here. And Isaac has been guiding for a long time. And we've been together probably going on 12 years now, since we were in high school. And our first dog, I wanted a weenie dog. And my sister always had weenie dogs. And she kind of made me fall in love with them. So he was going to buy me, you know, my first dog. And he was always into hunting. He had a buddy that had hounds, and he's been around it a little bit, and he had a few hounds when he was a kid. And so his buddy actually had a litter of hounds, and he's like, well, this looks like a weenie dog. She'll like it. So
she won't know for 3 months.
Dog, and I fell in love. Yeah, exactly. So I fell in love, and since then we've been growing our pack, and he's been training, and we've just been trying to figure it out as we go. And I think we've got it pretty locked down now. We know it's a learning process, and we'll probably never, you know, be our best. So we're always working to get better, and the hounds and dogs come and go. So there's always more dogs to train, and you know how that goes.
Oh, that's the truth.
So we've been doing this for like the last 11 years with our hounds, and we still have that original hound dog that was supposed to be a weenie dog. She's still around.
Oh, really?
She's rolling with the pack. Yeah. So she's our oldie.
So what's the name of the outfitting service then?
So yeah, he just opened up his outfitting business, and it's HCH Adventures. And the HCH, it kind of stands for like a few things. Our hounds, we have their brand, it's HCH, and we call them High Country Hounds. And then our horses, of course, High Country Horses. So basically it stands for like High Country Heaven, High Country Hounds, High Country Horses, High Country Hunting. That whole experience is what we're trying to offer. And I know a lot of people, when they think of New Mexico, they think of desert, but we're in the southern portion of the Rocky Mountains. So it's really like a little, like a mini Montana.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call it. Sometimes I'll post videos of the high country, and people are just blown away that it's New Mexico. They can't believe it.
Yeah, but, when you say high country,
we've ever known. So
it's high too. I mean, you were just telling me, what kind of elevations are you guys at?
So we live in the valley, and that's about 7,500 feet. And then our high country is up above the valley, and it starts about like 10,000 feet. And then once you get to the alpine skyline, that's above alpine, into the skyline, that's about 12,000 feet. So pretty high. And we go up there with the dogs, and we go horseback riding and fishing. And there's a bighorn sheep up there, and we got elk and mule deer, and we've got bears and mountain lions and bobcats. So we've got a whole lot of game out here to hunt, and a lot of country to explore. But we just dealt with that huge fire. It was like 365,000 acres by the time they got it out.
Yeah, it was huge.
A lot of our hunting grounds got got burnt. So we're just kind of learning as we go how to figure out hunting now that some of our areas are gone, and some of the areas that are still intact, they're closed because of the flash flood warnings and possibilities. We've been having really bad flash flooding down in the valley because all of the mountains surrounding the valley are what burns. Right. So everything, when it rains, everything that, falls is coming straight down to us. And any county road is turning into a river once it rains. It's really crazy.
Oh, I can imagine.
So we had, we had some flooding in our kennel too. We kind of prepared for it a little bit. We had some sandbags and stuff, but you don't know where the water's going to go until the water
shows up.
So, yeah, exactly. So we had to rearrange a few dogs, and that's been life lately. It's just trying to get back to normal.
Yeah, that fire, and
bear season started today, so.
It's hard. Because you guys got limited time to get out. Season is relatively short. And when you got fires that come through like that, like you and I were chatting earlier, it's not like it's just 1 year that's lost. You're fighting that for the next, like here where I'm at, some of these fire scars, they're still not really growing anything. There's not a huntable population of much in a large chunk of land for the last 15, 20 years because it's just never came back.
Yeah. The devastation that it does to the wildlife, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, like, all that ground, was that primarily big game hunting or like bobcat ground for you? Because you guys are hunting pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, we hunt everything. Anything we can hunt, we try and hunt. One of our favorite bear areas is just completely nuked. That was like our absolute favorite area to go hunting for bears, and it always seemed to have a good amount. And a lot of the private land is what got devastated, and some like mountain communities. I know it burnt, I want to say at least 300 homes, but I know there was more by the time it finished. So a lot of it was down low, but it did creep into our wilderness, and that was really prime elk country, and obviously lion and bear and bobcat. So we still have some areas that we're lucky to have, but it just, like, from where I'm at the end of the valley, you could see this peak way in the distance. It's like 30 miles away from where I'm at. And the fire started at that peak, and it just came all the way, didn't creep, it ran through the valley. And it just, like, within one night, I think it had burned through like 3 or 4 different communities. And the next one was headed for with us. So it was pretty crazy, like having to evacuate and stuff. We had basically our entire county was under evacuation because we had this huge fire on one end of the county. And then there was actually another one it wasn't the same size, but it was pretty dang close to it. And those ones were burning at the same time. So our whole county was on evacuation, and we have, I don't even know how many dogs, at least 20 dogs and 6 horses. So, having to evacuate those, and like not knowing where to go because all our family lives in the county, and to pack up, 20 hound dogs and all these horses and head out was really not an option for us. So we basically just hunkered down and used generators for power to power up our freezers, because we have 3 freezers with wild game, and the power was shut off as a precaution because the fire was, running through the communities. And so we had no power, no cell phone service the power was at least a good week. And then they turned it on in some areas once the fire had passed and it was safe to do so. So we had no cell phone service for like a month. And in some areas we have cell phone service, but at home we're still dealing with absolutely no service. And we landed up kind of just bouncing around with the hounds and the horses. Like I said, it's a big valley that we live in. So once it passed the lower end of the valley and it was headed for the top half, we took the horses and hounds down to my parents and hunkered down there for a few days until it ran through. And it was pretty crazy. All of our family were separated, and it was like pretty apocalyptic. It felt like
it is, right?
For a while, yeah. Well, for a while we're using the generators and stuff, and then the gas stations were turned off because as a safety precaution. So it was like you're like searching my parents' yard to see if they have an extra can of gas, or Isaac's grandparents to see if they don't have an extra can of gas, so we could run the generator for a few more days and have our meat frozen. And then the dogs, just having for them, I felt so bad for them having to deal with that smoke.
Yeah.
And just be away from home. And we actually landed up, I think it had to have been the move back and forth. We had a litter of pups, and a couple of them caught parvo. And then one of the big dogs got it. And when the pups got it, one of them threw up a worm. So I took him to the vet, and we were treating him for tapeworms. We didn't even know that it was parvo. So I was like, not even, quarantining them. And
right.
One of the big dogs ended up getting it, and we lost two 4-month-olds and one 9 or 10-month-old to it. So
oh, dang.
It was rough. And then just now trying to get back into the swing of things.
Right.
Getting ready for hunters coming out and season starting.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, like we've helped with some evacuations, and any of our listeners for the most part are going to understand, like the animals in those situations, it's tough because they're freaking out usually. We've helped move a lot of stuff over the years living here in Southern Oregon, but with just going through that, before we dive into your hunting more and the dogs, is there any tips you would have in this situation? Because the fire spreads so fast, you don't have time to really do a whole lot. I know, like for us, when fire season hit and things were getting close, I used to strap telemetry collars on my dogs because I knew if I was away or, there was not room, if we've got family stuff in the truck, like I knew if a dog slipped out in a panic situation, I could at least track that dog down, because trying to load them up in that mess.
Yeah.
And, we've been to where there's sirens everywhere, and it's just so much a distraction. Like, do you have any good tips and things you wish you would have had more prepared for that?
The one thing that helped us a lot, we used the dogs or tree tie out. We have like one of those, 2 of like those 10 dog tie outs or whatever. So having one of those is like really good. If you need to get out in a pinch, you just load all your dogs up and you get your tie out, and then you can go wherever, you know what I mean? If you got to go camp out or something and you have a place for your dogs, that helped us a lot. I'm glad that we had that. Honestly, having enough dog food on hand, because when we got evacuated and stuff, all the roads got closed, and we live in a mountain town, and there's not a Big R Tractor Supply. That's where we get our dog food from, for 45 miles or 30 miles. So when the roads closed, we were like trying to figure out who can get in, like what police officers do we know, what firefighters do we know, can they bring us some dog food? We don't have any dog food. So I mean, having enough dog food would have been a huge help to have it on hand. And I really don't know what else, like that, like you say, a collar on them is a really good tip, because even if so like you said, the fire moves so quickly, even if you aren't home and someone lands up unclipping them or turning them loose just to save them, at least you can you can track them. And name callers, always having your information on them. That's a huge deal.
Oh, that's the biggest. I mean, I swear when people ask like, oh, what's the most important? I'm just starting out. I need to get tracking equipment and this and that. And it's like, okay, first most important thing is your nameplate collar. Like, do you have a good one? Yeah. Because in the end, that's what's going to get your dog back. I mean, it's a last ditch resort. But yeah, the telemetry collars, they worked pretty well. I mean, that because you don't have to worry about them going dead. Yeah, it's old, antiquated in a lot of people's eyes, but for their purpose, they still do the job. And man, I just hate to think if my neighbors let my dogs out, I would be very grateful, but I want to make sure I can find them at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like now with the flooding, if our neighbors were to see our dogs were getting flooded out and they, let them go, as long as they have a nameplate collar, I feel a little bit better about that. And then the Freeze brand helps a lot too, because, sometimes things happen to those nameplate collars or someone can take it off or whatever, but at least that Freeze brand, you still have a way of identifying that dog.
Do you guys do your own
actually have a few
Freeze brand?
Yeah, we do our own. We have a few that need theirs done now that season's here. So, but that helps a lot, making sure that you can find them, or people can know that they're your dog or contact you if they find them. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, I feel like
and
that.
I was really stressful for the dogs. I don't know what we could have done to make it less stressful for them. I mean,
no, I think you hit the big ones.
We were.
That is exactly what I was going to say is, I used to have a real bad habit of keeping just a bag of food that I was feeding, and when I needed it, I'd go to the store. But you think about those situations and the stress involved, and then you're changing their diet, and I mean, it'll wreak havoc on them, really.
Yeah, it does. It does. One is changing their diet, that you know how that affects them.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And even if we did have to, travel far, at least we'd know we'd have enough dog food to get us by for a while. 20 dogs, 150-pound bag isn't going to last more than 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, when you're feeding 20 dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
when
the tie out. I think that's another good one. Tie-out,
well, it helps because we didn't have to worry about, dogs fighting or being tied too close, or all we had to do was have a couple stakes and the tie out, and we were able to get everyone lined up pretty quick. And I wish I would have taken a picture of them all evacuated. Maybe Isaac has one. I'll have to look and see.
You should send it to him.
But yeah, I'm going to look and see if I find one, or ask Isaac if he took any, because it was wild. And our friends, they have dogs too, and they're right on the other side of the mountain as us. So the fire was going in both directions, and as soon as it hit us, it hit them. So we were kind of like back and forth, like checking on each other. And if they needed dog food, we would grab them some, or if we needed, they would grab us some. So it was a little bit hectic there for a while, but things are starting to go back to normal, and the forests are opening up, and hunting season is starting. The fire is out completely.
And you're working. They're out hunting and you're working today.
Not working. No. The dogs are out hunting, hopefully catching. But yeah, I'm working. But at least I got to go get an antelope this past weekend. So
nice.
I got a little bit of action. Yeah.
So right now you said it's bear season's opened up. How much hunting are you guys doing this season for clients? Like, did you take on a pretty big load this year?
No, we didn't want to take on too much, just because it's our first year, and it's just Isaac and my cousin that are the houndsmen, and our other buddy, he has hounds too. So, but he does fire, so he can only help us out when he can. And we didn't want to bite off too much, more than we can chew.
Right.
So we took on. We had 2 clients this week, so hopefully we could take them out. And our bear season, we don't have a spring bear, so it starts now in the fall, and that's August 15th or 16th, whatever today is, the 16th. So August 16th it starts, and then it'll run until September 1st. Okay. And then during September, you can still hunt bear, but you can't use dogs or rifles because it's archery season. Oh. So, like if you see a bear and you want to get it with your bow, you can do that, but you can't run hounds. So we have to wait until archery season ends at the end of September, like around the 25th or something. And then bear season picks back up for hounds until, I think for our area, it runs until like mid-November, but we do have a quota. The state's divided up into zones, and then each zone has a quota. So just depending on what comes first, the date of the closure or the quota being met. So we hunt quite a bit. We don't have any hunters for the fall season. So Isaac's really been wanting to get a bear for himself. When he was younger and, hunting as a kid, he got a few bears like spot and stock, but ever since we've had hounds, he's never taken a bear under the hounds. And the first bear we caught with the hounds is the one I got. So he's like, well, once October comes, I guess I'm going to get me a bear.
Well, it was nice to let you go first. And that was a pretty bear.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Well, that bear I had been eyeing for a long time because he was a town bear. So a lot of people knew about him. He was very nocturnal, and I got lucky that he was in the right place at the right time where we can run him with the dogs and catch him. Because every time we'd hear about him, he was only coming out at night into town where we couldn't hunt, and you can't hunt at night. So we were just patiently waiting, and he was pretty popular because everyone would see him. And one of my cousins even hit him with her car. And I was like so devastated. I'm like, no, my bear's dead. So the Game and Fish even ended up setting, because he was very bad bear, a trash bear. And we have a few local restaurants in town, and he was getting into their grease trap and into their dumpsters, and so they called Game and Fish, and Game and Fish had been trying to trap him too. So it was a good bear to get out of the area. And Isaac, of course, he'll let me go first with anything. But now he's really been like, I got to get myself a bear with the hounds, which I don't blame him.
Right.
I was eager to do that.
Oh yeah, it's
and then
pretty cool experience.
Yeah, then once bear season ends, once bear season ends, we'll roll over into archery elk. So he'll hunt archery elk for September. He has a couple clients for that. And then stacked bears for the month of October, and some more elk hunts in October, and then deer towards Halloween. Yeah. He has a good public land deer hunt that he's looking forward to. And then we got a couple of clients coming out for cow elk in the winter, and for bobcat and lion. So we're looking forward to that. And then, of course, the baby will be here around that time.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Yeah, so you guys stay pretty busy. I mean, guiding everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and we actually even had 2 turkey hunters in the spring too. So we've been at it since this spring. But then, of course, the fire kind of put a damper on our summer shenanigans.
Well, so I guess I got a question before I ask my question. Do you guys run like a mutual pack, or do you have your dogs and his and run a like combo, or how's your guys' pack dynamic?
No, they're all both of our dogs. It's a mutual thing. Whichever dogs are eager to get out in the morning, or not so sore. Mm-hmm. He always has his favorite ones that he takes out.
Different than your favorite?
Stay behind the old. No, they're my favorite too. The spoiled one that has a bed right next to my bed. He's always out, no matter what.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we just try and rotate them as much as we can because we'll feel bad if we don't take them all out and some stay behind.
Yeah.
And we have like, I think we only have like half of the amount of collars for the amount of dogs we have, so we can't take all of them out, and all of them wouldn't even fit in the box anyway. So we kind of have to split the packs up and just mix and match here and there.
Hey, I know a guy that could help you with that. If you need more collars or a bigger dog box.
I'm going to need some more.
Oh, man.
For sure. And a bigger truck for the bigger dog box.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially when you're going to have a little one in tow. You got to have room for everything.
Yeah. But hounds are definitely the center of our world. Our world definitely revolves around that. And our outfit, he does do, like I said, elk and mule deer, turkey, all the other species, but the bear and the lion and the bobcat, that's our focus.
That's the passion.
That's where we have the fun, and our dogs get to get out, and we get to get out with them. So
what's your favorite out of those? Are you a bear hunter, or do you lean more towards the lion?
My favorite would probably be the bobcat hunting. Just
really?
They're just so cool, and they always give us a challenge.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like, we have this one bobcat. We always cut his track in the same spot this winter, and every time we'd catch him, he would pull the runaround. And one time that the dogs had him treed, we get there and it's a canyon, and there's a log across the canyon, and the dogs are just treed on that. So I don't know if he walked across that log or he was on the left-hand side of the canyon, the right-hand side of the canyon. Me and Isaac did circles on the snowmobile. We did circles hiking. We, tried to get the dogs to find a scent again, and we looked for a track, and we just never found him. And then the next time Isaac chased him, he took him on one of those hell hikes where he takes you up one mountain, down the other, and then up the next one.
Oh yeah.
So I just like bobcats because they're a little bit more challenging and more work for the dogs, I think, because the track is a little bit smaller, and our dog is always wanting to just once he smells that it's hot, he just wants to run right through it.
Yeah.
So Isaac's like, no, it's not fresh enough yet. Put your nose down.
So do you run the same dogs then?
I think.
I mean, with that, like, is it hard running the bear dogs on the cat dogs with getting them to do that? Like, being smart enough to slow down and work it out? Because that, I think, is the biggest challenge. I mean, some of us will face is switch hitting from big game like bears over to something like a cat that leaves way less scent. They're pretty tricky. What are you guys doing to get them to switch over? Is there anything you're doing to help them, or just let them figure it out?
Really, the only thing we're doing to help them is getting down and walking it out with them. You know what I mean? Not just expecting them to figure it out on their own. And because sometimes all it takes is for you to go and find that track where they missed it and show it to them, or get them to take that one instead, and that'll do it. But that's the biggest thing that we do for bobcats. Like for a lion, we'll find a track and let them down and let them figure it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
But for a bobcat, we basically get down since the very beginning and start walking it out with them. And don't let too many dogs out, of course, on that track, because then you'll lose it forever.
Yeah. No, I think that's the biggest like tip I've gotten is walk the track out. And I am not a cat hunter by any stretch of the word, but you think about all the races that they're just boohooing and the cold trailing for a long time, and then it goes instantly jumped. Well, that cat was like bedded down somewhere, right? It was eating or sleeping or something. You don't know if that jump point is 50 yards past where your dog's lost it or 5 miles past where your dog's lost it. But if you don't go, I mean, you could be missing a lot of opportunities for a totally catchable cat. Even though the track that you've ran so far was garbage, it could instantly change.
Yeah, exactly. Walking it out definitely has made a big difference. We've noticed because then like sometimes the bobcats will go in a tree and then they jump from treetop to treetop and the dogs are still treed there and the bobcat came down two or three trees, you know, up the mountain or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
just looking around and looking for tracks and seeing if you could actually see the snow going up the tree where the bobcat climbed it or something, and helping your dogs out and not getting mad at them for not being able to figure it out, just helping them try and figure it out. That makes a big difference, I think. And doing a bigger circle once you lose the track, just circling around that area, and then if you can't find it there, doing a bigger circle. That's helped us out a lot. And like you say, you can have just like a really, really crappy track and you're just trying to figure it out. And then when they do find that point that the cat was either set it up or like you say that they jump it, it's a whole other game once the dogs find that sense. For Isaac's lion, that's kind of how it was. He got a nice tom this January, and we were bobcat hunting, and we landed up cutting this tom track. And it wasn't like the best track. It didn't even look like that big of a cat, but we decided to run it anyways. And the dogs landed up pushing past the snow, and they were on the sunny side. And we hiked around to them. We're kind of trying to help them figure it out, and the track looked like it was going back the other way. And so anyways, we just kind of messed around with them for a while and helped them figure it out. And as soon as they hit that fresh scent, like 5 minutes later, the cat was treed. And we had been, on that mountain the whole day, messing around, trying to figure out where it went and trying to get the dogs on the right scent. Because it had been laid up on that mountain for a while. So there was, tracks going different directions and stuff. And once they found that fresh one, they were able to take it and landed up being one of the biggest cats that we had seen in the tree. So,
Oh, yeah. And you were within probably a quarter mile of them, for most of that time trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the cat was probably there, listening to us arguing or something.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, and I know, like me personally, I am not one that really pushes my dogs, like as far as going in and helping them. Just with the style of hunting I've had to do lately, it's kind of, you're going to have to figure it out, or I've been fairly lucky enough you could go try to find another one, But because of that, I backed myself in a corner too, because I don't have dogs that are just going to sit there and grub. They can trail, but they're not mentally as tough, I think, as some of the other dogs, or stubborn. Maybe stubborn's a better word, that you could put them on just a horrible track and they're so geared towards trailing that they would just grub and grub and grub all night.
Yeah.
And I think that doing like you guys, when you're trying to hunt old tracks, or especially when you got a paycheck riding on it, which, I mean, I'll tell you, that's, I think, one of the toughest gigs out there is our guides and outfitters. Because you're PR, you're a houndsman, you're a businessman. You wear so many hats doing that it's amazing that guys can go through that and still enjoy what we do. Like, it just shows the love and the passion for what we do to be able to go through some of that. Because I know clients aren't easy, and you got to have dogs that'll perform under any situation. So that's what I hear a lot of, is just walking it out, making them stick with it, help them where you can. And it's kind of going back to that old school way of the dry ground Southwest, right? Those guys they'd figure it out and kind of point those dogs in a direction and do part of the work and work as a team. And man, I think it makes a different kind of dog for sure.
Yeah, it really does. when you work as a team, like you say, and you help the dog out, and the dog helps you out. Like you'll hear him sound off somewhere, and you go over there and you say, okay, well, here's the track again, and then you kind of walk it out more, and then the dog loses it, and you find it for him. So it really does make a difference in the dog when you help him out, and you don't just expect him to do it all.
Yeah.
And like you say, you are wearing a lot of hats as an outfitter and a houndsman and all of that. And we were talking about it. We're like, well, let's see, this is our first year in business. Let's see if we're going to love hunting as much as we did before.
Yeah.
We weren't doing it for other people. You know what I mean? Now you have all the paperwork and all that to deal with. So, but we're ready, because all the stressful stuff, the paperwork, and that is behind us, and now we can just hunt.
Yeah.
And hopefully try and make the clients happy and bring them back and send them home with some bears and lions and bobcats.
Yeah. So are you hunting the clients, off of horseback too? Or is that something you guys do more as a pleasure, personal thing?
Yeah, he advertises it to hunt off horseback. And if he has a client that's comfortable with horseback, we do that. And we love to ride in the summer. So if there's a client that's up for the challenge of a dry ground lion, he's up for the challenge of trying to get him one. This year he caught one dry ground lion, and then the next day he ended up catching a split race, 2 dry ground lions. So,
oh, wow.
It's good work for the dog. And if, like I said, if someone is up for the challenge of, because it's way different than looking for a track. You find a track and the lion's there.
Sure.
When you're just free casting, the dogs have to do the work, and you have to trust them that they're, doing the right job or chasing the right animal or whatever.
Right.
And so yeah, horseback, we like to do that a lot, but of course most of our lion hunts happen in the winter. But we're up for the challenge. If we have any clients that are up for the challenge of a spring or summer hunt on horseback.
Yeah. So when you say dry ground, I know that geography wise, it's a bit different than what people think of when they think of the Southwest, probably where you're at. But what are the setting conditions like? And specifically, I'm wondering soil. Are you guys working with good holding dirt that's dry, or is it more I don't know, granite or sandy? I'm assuming you guys are more vegetation, obviously way higher altitude.
Yeah, we have vegetation out here, so it's not like southern New Mexico or even central New Mexico that's cactus and sandy and all that. We're in aspen trees and pine trees and grass, basically. It's the ground cover, so it's not dirt. We're not hunting on dirt. Some areas there is less grass, but
just more bare ground,
bone dry. Yeah, there's just not snow on the ground. You know what I mean? It's still high country. We have right now the valley is so lush from all of the rainfall. I know it's crazy thinking
it burned up and it's soaked.
Burnt all summer, but it's really green now.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily bone dry or sandy. We have a buddy that's from central New Mexico, and Isaac will be talking to him man, it's been such a dry winter. We haven't had any snow, and he laughs because he's really dealing with no snow down there.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you think you have no snow, but.
Did they come up and hunt with you guys up there then, with those dogs they're running down in the desert?
Yeah, they come up and hunt with us. Yeah, he comes up and hunts with us, and then we go down and hunt with him. And So it's good to take our dogs to different areas like that. And last year, no, 2 years ago, we went and hunted with him, and that was the first time I had been out there. And Isaac's like, "Do you see that mountain over there? That's the one mountain we don't want to tree a bear on."
So that's where they go.
Sounds good. That's the one mountain we caught the bear on.
Oh, yeah.
It was a 5-hour hike into the tree, and then another 5-hour hike out. And we didn't even end up hiking out the way we went in. We just went up and over the mountain and got picked up on the other end.
Oh my gosh.
But,
that makes for a full day.
It's rough. It's rough country out here.
So what?
Steep canyon, steep mountains and deep canyons.
So what's it like for your dogs, especially going from like where you're at down to that desert or vice versa? Those dogs, do you see like any changes in the dogs, or do they know like kind of to honor those other dogs and just tag along until it's good enough? What's it like switching? I mean, to me, that's as big as switching from bears to bobcats, right? Like we're dealing with the physical scent there, but the difference between where you're at in the desert, you're dealing with scent retention, which is way different. How are those dogs stacking up like out of their home element?
For the most part, they do okay. The one thing I notice is they do get a lot harder, a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And, I noticed when we're out there, like, they weren't rigging as much. We basically just had to drop them until we pick up a scent. But up here, I don't know if it's because maybe more humidity or something in the air, but we go driving and it seems like we just wait for a rig. We never have to, jump off the mountain and hike them down this canyon to see if we spook something or pick something up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To start. And down there, it seemed like the only thing we rigged was a dang skunk. So I don't know if the humidity has anything to do with it. But other than that, they seem to do fine.
So other than the strike, I mean,
yeah. Other than that, it seems like they hunt just fine once they're on the ground with the other dogs. And
now I'm gonna have to bug a couple more dry ground guys, because I'm wondering, like, my thought process is in your kind of country. I mean, I would say it's kind of probably similar to what I'm hunting, mountainous stuff, way higher elevation. But I think the ability to strike a track is way better, like in your conditions where that scent's going to hold. Even just like the trees and the wind flow is much different than down like in the desert. I feel like the odds of rigging the animal is better out in that desert. Like you're going to have to be more on top of them. They're actually striking the animal and not so much the track, where you got like more leniency where you're at because that scent holds longer.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we rig something up here, we're not trained right away. Though, like you say, we get down and look around, and there's the track, and that's what we start them on. And then, mile later, that's when they tree. So I'm curious about that too. I guess I never really paid too much attention as far as, going from up here to down there. They seem to do okay. Like I said, other than the heat. Yeah. What really gets to them.
So do you do anything to combat that? Or are you guys just hunting earlier in the morning or later in the evening?
Well, what I had done last year, I haven't done any this year. I might do it with my antelope. But from all of the elk and the deer that we had killed, I got the bones, and then I made a whole bunch of bone broth for them. And I was just, mixing that with their dog food to kind of give them a little bit more like glucosamine and chondroitin.
Yeah.
And keep them a little bit more hydrated. And that seemed to help. We had a few dogs last year that were getting us scared because they were getting pretty overheated and dehydrated. And obviously that's never good.
Oh, that's
So,
scary. And they're
I
never
had,
the same.
yeah, I had done some research. Yeah. And I had just decided to start doing that, like with what I could and not wasting all the bones. And that seemed to help. So I'll probably do that again now with my antelope and get them something for the rest of their season. So that way they have a little bit more
Yeah.
stuff to keep them hydrated.
You know, I used to have this thing. I haven't packed it in years, but if I was running like daylight, hot hours again, I used to always carry, it was basically like a car chamois, like for drying your car off. But I think it was called a cool towel. And they were really big. Like when we were showing dogs, all the fancy show dogs had them, because you had to keep the hair just right and keep the dog cool. It's this big dog and pony show. But I used to carry one with me because just with a water bottle, I could put it in the container, it would hydrate, and then you wring out the excess. And if you just leave it out in the air, even when it's super hot outside, it would cool. And then I could put my dog's feet on it, or I could hold it on their feet because that's where you want to get them cooled down the fastest if they're getting to that heat stroke danger zone.
Yeah.
But that was super great because you could wring it out and it didn't weigh anything. A couple of ounces. It's basically like a reusable towel, and it worked killer. Again, I don't hunt during the day anymore. I don't have to deal with that kind of heat. But I knew using that on the dog pads made a huge difference in getting them cooled down, or even rubbing alcohol is not real fun if they got a hurt foot. You'd want to be very careful. But as far as getting them cooled down, that's a rough situation that can go south super fast if you're not prepared for heat exhaustion.
Yeah, it's scary. You're out there in the middle of nowhere on the mountain and your dog is starting to wobble, or you just know when they're at that point where it's not good, dangerously overheated, and you got to get them cooled down quick. So that's a smart thing to carry with us. I never thought about that, but I have seen those cool towels and I know they work really good. We just put on the trucks because we didn't have any last year, and we're dealing with, like I said, the dogs overheating and stuff. So we made sure to carry at least 8 gallons of water on the truck with us, and have that for the dogs, because sometimes you go somewhere and you can't find water to save your life, and that's always good to have. But a cool towel seems like a really, really good investment to just keep on hand. And just knowing the signs too, and knowing your dogs and paying attention to the conditions.
Yeah, it's like I said, they're super cheap. They seem to work. I mean, and they make your dog. We'd throw it over their back too, or whatever. You can use it on yourself. I've thrown it over my neck lots of times when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, I went to California a couple of years ago, and I did a pheasant hunt out there, and they had the German short-haired pointers, and of course in California the heat is outrageous,
god awful. Yeah.
And at the end of their field, because it was like a farm, they were farmed birds. They weren't like, it wasn't like out in the wild or anything like
Sure.
that. It was just on a farm. So in the field that you would hunt the pheasant, on each end of the field, they had these giant like stock tanks full of water, and they would just get the dog and throw them in there and just hold them in there. Obviously not underwater, but make sure their legs are submerged, and you just hold the dog in there until they stopped panting and cooled down, because overheating is really dangerous for a dog, and it can kill them and cause brain damage and all that. So
yeah, that's what the old timers always said, is once they heat stroke, they're done. They're never going to be the same. They're just off. They got to screw loose. And one day, things might be fine. And like, they're so susceptible to having it happen again. It's just like, it's scary.
Yeah, it is. And it's good to know the signs and to just like your dogs, that they have heart. Our dogs have heart, and they will push themselves until they fall over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you don't stop them, or make sure that they're not overheating themselves, then it could really turn into a bad situation.
Oh yeah, and that's where the partnership comes in, because like you said, they're going to go until they can't go. Where you as a handler, you're watching it and keeping an eye on things. It sucks to pick a dog up when you're, potentially 100 yards from catching something sometimes. But, if the dog wants to live another day, we all want to have that next hunt with them. Sometimes you just got to suck it up and do it.
Yeah. And one of our older dogs, he's older and he's a little bit heavier. He got pretty heavy this off season, so we have him on diet. And I told Isaac, you need to watch him, because I would rather him be sore for a few days, because his hips and stuff, they're giving out on him already. I'd rather him be sore for a few days than us lose him to heat stroke. The soreness that we can deal with, but the heat stroke, I mean, there ain't no coming back from that.
No. No. Well, that's awesome. We'll have to get Isaac on here sometime too, when he's not running around and leaving you to work. Because I've had some great talks with him too. No, and I wanted to reintroduce everybody too, because you've been contributing to our ambassadors blog too with some articles, and I know you said you had some others you might do. So where can people find you guys and your outfitters, like Instagram, Facebook?
So my Facebook and Instagram is just my name. It just spelled out Teresa Lujon. And then Isaac is High Country Addict. And then our business page is HCH Adventures LLC. And that's both on Facebook and Instagram. And then we also have a website. And we're just kicking things off. So we're hoping for a good season and to bring in some more clients next year.
No, that's awesome. I'm excited for you guys, because it's a huge process to get where you're at, and become an outfitter. And, it's a whole different way of doing things. So we're going to have to recap. We'll get you guys through season, and then we'll get both of you on here, and we'll see if you still like it.
Yeah, exactly. Still, if we still like each other, and if we still like outfitting.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, it's a process. Like I said, when we first started, that was when we were getting our collars from Plumtree. So
it's been a minute. I've been here 5.5. It's over 5.5 years now. It's crazy how fast time flies, because I remember you guys were one of my first customers too in the beginning.
Yeah. And so when you switched over to W, I was like, well, I guess we got no choice. I like Jason, so I'm going with him. Well,
we appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming over. I was a little nervous at first, because it's different. It's a lot bigger business as far as there's more team members. There's a lot more customers. And I was really hoping that people would come over, because I knew Buddy and Laura's mission and the company plan as far as, the number one thing is customers. So I figured if that lined up, it'd work out. And thankfully, a lot of you guys came over and we all appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're happy to be with W. I mean, Isaac said the other day when he talked to you, he's like, yeah, Jason said he's going to make sure that the collars and the drive track get sent back so we have it for the hunt. And he's already using them today. So,
that's awesome.
The customer service and all that is definitely worth bragging about. So,
well, tell him don't be so hard on equipment all the time.
He's pretty rough on it.
Oh, I know.
My drive track, I had bought the drive track for him last year, maybe the year before, and he had just gotten EP200i when it came out this past year, and he was really excited with that and kind of babying it and, being very, very careful with it. Well, he went out on one of those days that he caught those dry ground lions this summer. He was parking at the trailhead and getting the horses down and stuff, and he decided to put the drive track under the seat because he didn't want someone to see it and then try and steal it or something. So he put it under the seat. Well, then when he went to get in or load stuff up in the truck, he needed to adjust it.
Yeah, bad idea.
When he went to roll the seat back, he felt something. And then he just forced it. And he was like, oh, once I forced it and I heard it, I knew what it was.
Oh, no. That's the real story of what happened then.
Yeah. That's what happened there. But it's replaced. You guys got it fixed and it's working great.
Oh, so. Perfect. Well, you guys definitely stay in touch. We'll follow up. And all the listeners out there, make sure to check out some of Teresa's work in the ambassador blog that we've got going on here. And you guys, I hope you have a great first season. Go enjoy it, and we'll touch base here after hunting season. Yeah,
it was great catching up with you guys, and like I said, we appreciate everything you do for us, and supplying us with callers, to sending us the onesies and all that stuff. So
yeah,
you guys.
That little girl's going to be decked out.
Oh, yeah. She already has a better wardrobe than me.
Well, thanks for taking some time today, Teresa.
Yeah, it was awesome talking to you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, anytime.